Oral questions by members.
The Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. 20 years ago, the Fair Share Agreement was established between the province of British Columbia and northern municipalities. The agreement, now 20 years old, was designed to ensure that wealth created in the north stayed in the north, to ensure that infrastructure development could take place in a timely way so that those communities that were seeing the force of development had the opportunity to manage that development over time. And before the election, Honourable Speaker, it won't be a surprise that the Premier was an enthusiastic supporter of the Fair Share program. In fact, back in 2005, the previous Liberal government signed a binding memorandum of understanding for a 15-year extension of the initial Fair Share programs established by the NDP. Unfortunately, after the election, Honourable Speaker, the Premier's enthusiasm for the Fair Share program dissipated, and now we're told that the agreement will be abrogated and a new agreement is being mandated to be completed by April 30th of this year. So my question through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister of Community Development, why is it that the enthusiasm for binding agreements seems to wane after an election with this government?
Minister for Community, Sport and Cultural Development.
Thank you very much, through you, Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. We have been working closely with the communities across the province and specifically in the Northeast. The Fair Share started in 1994, and again we had other negotiations in 97, 2005, and we've been working closely with the communities to ensure that they have the supports necessary for important infrastructure investment in those communities. I've been working with the local governments, the mayors, the councils, to look at what is next, to look at how we can prepare for a sustainable future for local governments. At the same time, Honourable Speaker, we need to recognize at a time when we put in the first agreement in 2005, and Honourable Speaker, we are incredibly proud that we have put in over $302 million into those communities for critical infrastructure since 2005, that at the time when we opened the 2005 Fair Share Agreement, oil and gas royalties were $2 billion. Today, Honourable Speaker, we are looking at oil and gas royalties of $500 million. It's important that we work at sustainable plans for these local governments, ensure that we're preparing for the future.
Thank you, Minister. The Leader of the Official Opposition on a supplemental.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. That is quite a distance from the election campaign. I recall $1 trillion in economic activity, $1 billion prosperity fund. We were going to be debt-free. We were going to be debt-free, Honourable Speaker, but now just a scant 2 years after the election,
Members.
2 years after the election, and we can't keep agreements that we signed 10 years ago. The Fair Share Agreement is a 15-year agreement between the Government of British Columbia and the communities of the North. 10 years into that, Luongo-like, the government wants to renegotiate. Well, they said they were going to consult and cooperate with school boards before the election. Afterwards, not so much. They said they wanted to work with their First Nations partners in the federal government before the election. After the election, not so much. Before the election, the streets were going to be paved with gold, and now we don't have a sustainable agreement in the North because, well, I guess it's just not sustainable. We're going to move on and keep on smiling. Again, to the Minister, if you sign a 15-year agreement, shouldn't you stick to that 15-year agreement?
Minister of Community, Sport and Cultural Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. It really defines the difference in how we look at economics between this side of the House and that side of the House. Honourable Speaker, we are looking at working with these local governments for the long term on ensuring that there's a sustainability. But, Honourable Speaker, I don't want to lecture on debt financing, but the importance of anyone who's ever gone out and taken a mortgage knows that when you go to the bank for critical infrastructure, it is necessary that you have long-term financing and knowing where that money is coming in. We are working with these local governments so that when they go to the bank for Build Canada funds, for gas tax funds, for critical infrastructure that is necessary to grow the economy in these communities, that they have the debt financing and the ability to look forward. But Honourable Speaker, let me just one final comment. Again, the difference with the economics is that at a time when we look at when the fair share was set up for the rural property taxation, it was at a currently last year was a rate of $16.8 million, Honourable Speaker, but what we're looking at now is we're providing those communities $43 million, a grant in lieu that we need to look at. We need to address the sustainability of this, the grant in lieu portion, and ensuring that we're building an economy in the Northeast for the long term.
Opposition on a further supplemental.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Again, the minister seems to want to put aside the fact that the government entered into a 15-year agreement that is 2/3 completed with 5 years to go. Within that agreement, there was an opportunity to start renegotiating a year before the conclusion of the agreement. But what did the government do? They sent a letter. They sent a letter to the community saying, deal's off, we need a deal by April 30th. That's the consultation and cooperation that you get from BC Liberals. And it's better than that. It's better than that, Honourable Speaker. They're prepared to break agreements with school boards. They're prepared to break agreements with working people. They're prepared to break agreements with municipalities, but a solemn commitment to give a tax break to millionaires cannot be broken. That's not sustainable. So to all of the people who pay taxes in British Columbia for schools, for health care, for transportation, you guys are just going to have to wait until things get a little bit better. But millionaires, you're in. The top 2% get a tax break while everyone else is unsustainable. Again, Honourable Speaker, through you to the minister, why is it that the BC Liberals just refuse to cooperate with anybody but themselves?
Minister of Community Sport and Cultural Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And again, you know, if it was up to the NDP, there would be no economic growth because, you know, Honourable Speaker, again, a simple lesson in economics. Oil and gas royalties.
The members will come to order.
Oil and gas royalties,
members will come to order.
When it started in 2005, was $2 billion. Oil and gas royalties today, $500 million. If we're going to support these local governments for the future to ensure that the capital infrastructure that is required for it, we need to work with these local governments, negotiate a new deal moving forward to ensure that the capital investment is there and ready for the economic development that's going to happen in BC.
Member for Coquitlam-Millardville.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The existing Fair Share MOU acknowledges that it would take a year or more to negotiate a new agreement to start in 2020. The minister, however, has single-handedly appointed a negotiator and dictated, they just told the municipalities in the regional district that a new 15-year agreement must be in place by April 30th, 2015. Giving negotiators only 6 weeks to strike a new deal. So much for working closely with local governments. Mayor Ackerman from Fort St. John and Mayor Fraser from the District of Taylor are asking the Premier to rescind this unilaterally imposed deadline. They are here today. Honourable Speaker, will the minister do the right thing and honour the commitments she made under the Fair Share Agreement?
Minister of Community, Sport and Cultural Development.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. But the member opposite should understand as well the importance when we're working with local governments on debt financing that you need long-term sustainability. That is what we're prepared to do, Honourable Speaker. We are negotiating currently with the communities. We've heard when we've talked to communities in the Northeast that as they put their gas tax applications in, as they put their Build Canada applications in for critical infrastructure that is required to grow the these communities, Honourable Speaker, that when they go to the bank, they need to know that long-term certainty. Honourable Speaker, we are working with these communities for long-term certainty out to 2030. That is our commitment. We've made that commitment. We're continued. But again, Honourable Speaker, $2 billion in oil and gas royalties in 2005 when this agreement was signed, $500 million today.
Here, here.
Millardville on a supplemental.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm not sure how anyone can trust this government when they just tear up agreements willy-nilly. This government has promised to negotiate a rural dividend with other resource communities, one that is supposed to be modelled after the Fair Share Agreement. But given the high-handed direction the minister is taking, the new agreement probably won't be worth the paper it will be written on. Given that they keep tearing up agreements, Honourable Speaker, can other resource communities expect to be treated as badly by this government as the communities of Fort St. John and Taylor are being treated right now?
Minister for Community, Sport and Cultural Development.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I would remind the member opposite that we just recently signed a Northern Rockies Municipality MOU supporting $20 million for those communities over 10 years to ensure that the critical infrastructure investment to grow. Honourable Speaker, we remain committed to ensuring that we are
Minister.
growing.
Members, the chair will hear the answer and the question. Member. Please continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We're committed to ensuring that we're going to grow the community to support with infrastructure investments in these communities. But, Honourable Speaker, let me hear from the member opposite or out there the support of LNG, the support of economic growth, the support of ensuring that these communities have the type of development to ensure that we're growing for the future.
Here, here.